Worldwide Hippies presents Hippie News and Stuff with Winston Smith and the Worldwide Hippies News Team.
Welcome to Hippie TV News and Stuff for the week of March 21st. Brought to you by WorldwideHippies.com, news, commentary, and entertainment from citizens in media around the globe. WorldwideHippies.com, media for the people, by the people. I am Winston Smith. Obama's shame? Shaye, it ain't so. The doc is preoccupied. Ed Croft dives into women's reproduction. The Michael K. Minute. Another installment of This is England. Wendy Starr is on assignment, but Hippie Woman is here. Instant Karma Files. Good Cop, Bad Cop. Our Asshole of the Week, and more. Top story. To anyone who is familiar with Jeremy Scahill, his credibility as a journalist goes without question. He's a Puffin Foundation Writing Fellow at the Nation Institute, author of the best-selling book Blackwater, The Rise of the World's Most Powerful Mercenary Army. He's also an award-winning investigative journalist and correspondent for the national radio and TV program Democracy Now! You can read his blog at thenation.com. Why is this important? Because in Jeremy Scahill's latest piece in The Nation, titled Why President Obama is Keeping a Journalist in Prison in Yemen, Jeremy Scahill details President Obama's personal, direct role in ensuring the ongoing imprisonment and probable torture of a Yemeni journalist. Here's some background. From Salon.com, Glenn Greenwald writes, as we know now, on December 17, 2009, President Obama ordered an air attack using Tomahawk cruise missiles and cluster bombs on the village of Majala in Yemen's southern Abiyan province. The strike ended the lives of 14 women and 21 children. At the time, the Yemeni government outright lied about the attack, falsely claiming that it was Yemen's Air Force which was responsible. The Pentagon helped to bolster this misleading claim of responsibility by issuing a statement that Yemen should be congratulated for actions against al-Qaeda. Meanwhile, leading American media outlets, such as the New York Times, reported falsely that Yemeni security forces carried out airstrikes and ground raids against suspected, again, al-Qaeda hideouts. U.S. media reports vaguely mention civilian deaths, or not at all, opting instead for leads such as Yemeni security forces carried out airstrikes and ground raids against suspected hideouts of al-Qaeda, killing at least 34 militants. While it is certain that dozens of civilians were killed, Scahill notes that whether anyone actually was active in al-Qaeda remains hotly contested. There is one reason that the world knows the truth about what really happened that day, because journalist Abala Shaye traveled there and, as Scahill writes, photographed the missile parts and cluster bombs bearing the name Made in America and distributed those photos to international media outlets. He provided detailed accounts proving that scores of civilians, including those 21 children, had been killed in the attacks. It was Shaye's journalism that led Amnesty International to show the world evidence that it was the United States which had perpetrated the attack using cluster bombs. Shaye's work was vindicated when WikiLeaks released a diplomatic cable allegedly provided by Bradley Manning in which Yemen's president joked with David Petraeus about continuing to lie to the public. We'll continue saying the bombs are ours, not yours, he said in that cable. Despite that important journalism, or more accurately because of it, Shaye is now in prison thanks to President Obama himself. For the past 2 years, Shaye has been arrested, beaten, and held in solitary confinement. Shaye's real crime is that he reported the facts that the U.S. government and its Yemeni client regime wanted suppressed. But while the imprisonment of this journalist was ignored in the United States, it became a significant controversy in Yemen. So it is beyond dispute that the moving force behind the ongoing imprisonment of this Yemeni journalist is President Obama. And the fact that Shaye is in prison rather than able to report is of a particular significance and value to the United States, in light of the still escalating American attacks in that country. Last week, over 3 days alone, American air assaults killed 64 people in Yemen, while American media outlets without anyone on the scene dutifully report that those killed are suspected al-Qaeda insurgents and militants. I urge everyone to read Scahill's entire article at thenation.com. Here's Jeremy Scahill on democracy.
What's important to realize here, and what Mohammed is saying, is that on one side of this, you have major media freedom organizations. You have major human rights organizations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. You have every legal and human rights organization in Yemen. You have very prominent foreign correspondents who've spoken out on this case, some of whom knew Abdullah Shaye. So they're on one side of it, condemning his trial as a sham, talking about who he actually was as a journalist. And on the other side of it, you have the dictatorship of Ali Abdullah Saleh, a specialized criminal tribunal set up to go after journalists, and the White House. And so President Obama is the single person keeping that man in prison right now, because even the dictator, Ali Abdullah Saleh, was prepared to release him. And it was a phone call, not from one of Obama's people, from Obama himself, that kept him in prison. And so when I called the State Department, one of the things I said is, what is the evidence that you have to support your contention that Abdullah Shaye is a terrorist or is affiliated with Al-Qaeda? And they said, we don't have anything to say on that right now. So that's how much of a sham this is. So anyone who wants to say, well, Obama must know what he's doing, needs to realize that you're taking a position against major human rights organizations and journalist organizations against the United States, which is currently engaged in its biggest crackdown on whistleblowers in history. So just be clear on what side of the line you're on if you're a journalist when you say.
And we're back. As promised, here's the doc.
What's up, Doc?
Hola, Winston. Hippies. Paz en nuestro barrio. Lo mismo, el conejo. Bugs, my bubba. You've noticed the days are lengthening and warming, and the demonstrations have begun. Occupy season is once apparently upon us again. And with it, obviously, will come the waves of jolly coppers, intent on disrupting them. It is, therefore, possibly worth remembering the signal wisdom of the 60s, my generation. Cops in riot gear are going to be pigs. Oh, really? In fairness, I'll stipulate, not all of them, and not all the time, but every citizen, I believe, should have the experience of being seriously busted, where they are no longer a citizen, but become a perp in the eyes of the law. Everybody should know how that feels and what it authorizes the cops to do, and they authorize by not exercising critical oversight. Something else I learned in the 70s, a taste for tear gas. But I digress. I was talking about pigs. No, really. Even if they're only just standing there, it's because they're waiting for the excuse to fuck with you. They're primed and ready. You can see it in their eyes. They almost gladly, it seems, seize on almost any pretext, any act of defiance, even a glance sometimes, as an excuse to kick your fucking ass. It's what they live for, I think, maybe what gives them meaning when they have to make other sacrifices. They seem to take extra pleasure in kicking hippie asses, too. Or maybe it's just protesters of any kind. Anyway, I don't think they'd be cops if they didn't love what they were doing. So, when or if the shrill cries of protesters and the concussions of rubber bullets on defiant flesh echo on the perfumed zephyrs of spring in your urban springtime backyard, the delicate sense of aromatic reminders of repression, tear gas, and pepper spray, remember to spring into action, but keep a camera handy to record every event in which you witness cops in action. Make notes, save details, ask names, just like real reporters. Remember, cops feel like they gotta make an impression. They often feel like soldiers in enemy territory. I mean, they don't call those things patrol cars for nothing. So hurting people makes an impression and they hurt people. It's just what they do. So be wary, hippies. If you get gassed, I hear a bottle of Malox is a good thing to have on you. I hope you won't need it when I see you at the beach. Back to you in Hippie Central, Winston.
Thanks, Doc. Does that make it a March? Ed Croft's got a hard on for something. Let's see what it is.
Hey, Winston. How's it going today? You know, I have to wonder about these legislators. They have a suicide pact or something? Really? I mean, do they really want to take on the women? I mean, this is nuts. You know, the confusing part for me is that, you know, a lot of these same folks were over here telling us that we need to be wary of the Muslims. That the Muslims were going to come here, they were going to take over, they were going to impose Sharia law on us, and we were all going to have to follow Islam. Okay. What's the difference? In Arizona, they're trying to legislate so that if a woman gets birth control employer has the right to inquire as to what it's being used for, and if it's being used to control birth, they can be fired on the spot. Really? Really? You're going to fire a woman for using birth control? And you're going to legislate that? And we should be afraid of Sharia law? What about Christian law? Look, this is insane. You know, I mean, they attack the gays, and they try to legislate, you know, gay rights and everything, and say that gays don't have rights. They can't get married. They can't be with each other. You know, why? Jesus said one commandment: love. And if they love each other, why should that be your problem? And now they're going after women's reproductive rights. Guys, think about it. Maybe you should be siding with your women folk, being with them, standing side by side. We need to stop this nonsense before it spreads. Or who knows? You may not be able to have that beer with your football game anymore. Because, you know, alcohol's bad too. My heart to your heart. One heart, one spirit. Back to you, Winston.
Thanks, Ed. Prickly subject, man. Now it's time for Good Cop, Bad Cop. Meet Sergeant Chris Chang of the Pembroke Police Department. He thinks he's so fucking special that he doesn't have to provide the name of an officer who shot a loving collie 3 times in front of a young kid. Corrupt liar Sergeant Chris Chang of the Pembroke Police Department says it was a good shoot, that the dog bit the police officer's shoe. Witnesses, though, say that police officials need to get the true facts before saying the dog attacked or bit the officer or his shoe.
We said, get your dog or we're going to shoot him. I had maybe 2 seconds. I started walking and he shot him.
I heard about 5 or 6 shots.
He's a loving family dog. So he's territorial. People were in his yard. He was barking at the people in his yard. He's protecting his family.
Witnesses went on to say that Sergeant Chris Chang of Pembroke Police Department really has no credibility with his statements. He was not even there. And that the truth is the dog never attacked or bit anyone. Corrupt lying Sergeant Chris Chang of the Pembroke Police Department, bad cop and puppy hater. Now meet Lead Police Chief Chad Smith. He saved a 3-year-old from death.
First tonight, how do you thank the person that saved your life?
Caden and Chief Smith didn't even know each other. Not until they met in a swimming pool. Over the weekend, Chief Smith and his family were in Monticello for a softball tournament when they decided to go swimming. It's not Smith's favorite thing to do, but he went. That's when, a little while later, he heard screaming.
Maybe 30 feet from me, there was a guard holding this lifeless body in her arms.
Smith didn't know how long the child was underwater, but knew he looked bad.
The baby was totally gray. Lips was totally blue.
Smith grabbed him and started CPR while walking to the edge of the pool to lay him down. Worst of all, the child didn't have a pulse.
I put my mouth totally over his mouth and nose and everything, give him a good puff.
All of a sudden, the child started choking, then breathing. Chief Smith saved his life.
I looked down at him and I could see he's looking at me like, who are you and why are you kissing me, you know? Well, I'm no hero.
Yes, you are.
I just did what there was probably other people could have done it. I just felt like there was not enough time to waste.
Lehigh Police Chief Chad Smith, good cop, good man. Well, for a brief distraction, here is the Michael K. Minute.
Hey, Michael K. at the coffee shop. Coffee. I like Caribou in Atlanta, not Starbucks. I used to like Starbucks, but their coffee tastes burnt to me now, and Caribou gives you that free refill. So since I'm a starving artist, I'm always looking for something for free, you know, without impinging on the right of others. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to get my free thing at your expense. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. I'm going to have to talk a little bit longer because I just have 2 short poems I wrote a minute ago and one that I wrote in December, I think. You know, I date these poems in these notebooks so I know when I wrote them. I'm blind today, and I don't know if it's from the chlorine or just from the fact that I have cataracts and astigmatism, and I have glasses, but I don't wear them. So maybe I need reading glasses. Maybe the resolution on my computer monitor is the way that it's supposed to be. Maybe I'm getting old and feeble. Maybe Hunter Thompson, Sylvia Plath, Edie Sedgwick, and Hemingway found the formula, but I don't think so. And this is called Glasses Are a Pain in the Ass. I'm going blind, which sucks because I've always seen things, and I like to see things. Don't you? Don't you like to see things? Winston, did I say hello to Winston? Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my segment, you know? Winston, hey. All right, this is called, it's untitled, you know, it's got a little piece of sugar package by it. So, you know, there could be something significant there. I doubt it, but it could be, you know. This is untitled. I do not envy the fact that my friend got a new car. She had to pay over $300 to replace a battery in the vehicle only after purchasing it. Car dealers do not play fair. This is an Audi, man. Audi scooter for $300 for a battery. Oh my God. Winston, what's wrong with this world, huh? Can we make a difference? Anyway, I'm probably at 4 minutes, so I'm going to say goodbye. Back to you, Winston.
Well, that was Michael K. and
Winston.
This is Glenn Simpson in Leeds, the heart of England, reporting for Worldwide Hippies. A little look at some of the things that have been happening around Britain and around Europe this week. First of all, a terrible tragedy that I think's struck everybody in Europe. A coach carrying a party of 22 school children and 6 adults crashed in the Alp tunnels underneath the mountains of Switzerland. All the 22 children were killed and the 6 adults as well. They were from a school in Belgium, and it's been absolutely horrific to see some of the scenes on television of the coffins coming home, etc. Something that's really touched everybody in Europe. 22 children aged between 11, 12, 13. An absolute tragedy, in fact beyond tragedy. On other news, something that did cheer me up this week was one of our old friends Goldman Sachs, or Sachs of Gold as I like to call them. Goldman Sachs executive in London, Greg Smith, resigned this week and wrote quite a damning letter about the company. In it he said that they had no morality and that they called their customers muppets. Greg Smith was a chap on an executive on £300,000, $500,000 a year, and his comments the last few days have somewhat damaged not just the reputation of Goldman Sachs but also its prices on the stock markets. Now, Goldman Sachs are quite an influential company. They do, in Britain, they do advise the government. I know they advise the government in America, and they also advise Greece, which brings me to my next news point. Now, Greece received a massive bailout of 100 and odd million. Figures have just gone beyond even thinking about now. Last week. Now, Greece has a problem. Greece every year runs at 7% short of its GDP. That means obviously that it needs 7% more than the money it pays out, so it's in debt 7% every year. Now, that would be similar to, say, for example, I lend you £100, $100, and I know at the end of the year you're only going to earn £93, you can't pay me back. Greece could never pay back its debts, and the latest bailout, the billions that have been given to it, are just like putting a finger in the dike. But now people are beginning to question how Greece became involved in the European Union in the first place. And the fact is that Greece were advised by Goldman Sachs, who put together the financial package needed to bring them into the common market. So at the moment, another 100 and odd billion thrown at Greece, but it doesn't go to the Greek people. They don't see a penny of it. It goes straight into the banks. And remember this, that in the democracy, the country that created democracy is now run by an unelected president, an unelected leader put in place by the EEC, who, strangely enough, can be linked right back to Goldman Sachs, allegedly. That's what's happening. Petrol prices in Britain are absolutely sky high at the moment. We're paying the equivalent in American money of $10 a gallon, with no let up on the horizon. In fact, we're expecting next week that when the budget's announced in Britain, that the Chancellor of the Exchequer will add even more tax to petrol. Now, what happens when petrol prices are high? It means that everything else becomes expensive. Transport costs, the knock-on effect is absolutely dreadful. The prices are going up in the shops, and obviously each business that has to pay more for its petrol has to pass on that cost to the consumer. Now, you may be surprised to know that in Britain, of every pound taken for petrol, 70 pence is government duties. So that's seriously a situation that's going to have to be looked at, and hopefully they'll do something about it. I can't see it happening myself. The amount of duty coming in from petrol is phenomenal, and are they prepared to see people be put out of work because we've had higher unemployment figures again this month in England? We've now got 1 million young people out of work, and we need some kind of action from the government here. But our Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron's on holiday this week. He's in America with his Hawaiian friend, Mr. Obama. So we're all sat at home and the country's collapsing, and he's watching basketball in Ohio. Well, there you go. A little bit of sports news. Soccer. Soccer at the moment in England is dominated by the two Manchester clubs, Manchester United and Manchester City. Manchester United crept past City to the top of the Premier League this weekend, and then during the week both clubs were involved in the Europa competition, and both clubs were knocked out. So it's all about Manchester at the moment in football. This is Glenn Simpson, Leeds England, and in your back to Joe and saying peace out. Take it away,
Winston.
This is how we feel.
Thanks, Glenn. And if you missed Glenn on Citizen Dispatch last week, you can watch his video on worldwidehippies.com or on our YouTube channel, the Worldwide Hippies channel. Now, from the Instant Karma Files.
Give me the damn no! Oh, I'm crazy. Is that right? You know what? Is that right? Is that right? You know what? You damn right. It's over. Damn!
Now reporting from the go-kart track in Los Angeles, it's Hippie.
Thanks, Winston. Are you ready for a little exposure? In Tokyo, a manhunt ended Friday when police captured a Chinese convict who fled from a Hiroshima peninsula. In Malaysia, a captive orangutan known for regular smoking. He cites this photo as possible proof of Cage's undead status. Undead status. Maestro Alan Gilbert was forced to stop the orchestra due to a disruptive cell phone ringtone coming from the audience. Motherfucker. With your f***ing go-kart bullshit. Oh, Jesus. Now, experts have been able to create images of that violent blast using a new technique that involves taking readings of delayed light that bounced off of solid movement. According to Reuters, studies have shown that kids living with a smoker had a 37%. According to Reuters, studies have shown that. According to Reuters, doctors said the woman only recently began to feel discomfort from the. God. He believes it's made him the laughing stock of. He believes it's made him the stock of. Won an iPhone's distinctive marimba. Marimba. Them damn go-karts. Get out of here now. Thanks, Winston. Thanks, Winston. Thanks, Winston. I appreciate it. Alright, back to you. Back to you, Winston.
Thanks, Nifty. I was going to do a show on bloopers myself, but I would have had to fake it. Oh, I hear it's time for our Asshole of the Week. And this week it goes to, how about this in the land of due process not? The Noble Network Charter School in Chicago, Illinois, for charging students, or more likely their parents, $5 to attend detention for any minor disciplinary infractions, such as not tying shoelaces when ordered to, or possessing a soft drink. It's fining without any due process for literally nothing, complains the Executive Director of Parents United for Responsible Education, Julie Weishoff. The Board of Education says if you have rules, you have to enforce them. The district's CEO, that should tell you something, Michael Milky, according to him, the fines, which brought in $200,000 last year, are employed to drive out troubled students and to push up graduation rates. Just how that works, he refused to say. After 12 $5 detentions, students are also required to attend a discipline class, which costs an additional $140. If the fines go unpaid, the students' parents will, you guessed it, get fined. So, for setting an example of how to decree law and deny due process at the same time sucking off the tits of the taxpayer yourself, you, the Noble Network Charter School in Chicago, Illinois, and in particular, the school district's CEO, Michael Milky, are fined $1,000 payable to yours truly, Winston Smith, for being Worldwide Hippies Assholes of the Week. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please visit worldwidehippies.com for more news, information, entertainment, and education by the people, for the people. And a big welcome to Boris Reisen. Boris, a political cartoonist living in New York City and our newest member in the Worldwide Hippies team. And if you are interested in becoming part of the Worldwide Hippies team, you can find out more by contacting Joe at worldwidehippies.com. And please show your support for Citizen Media by visiting our store, worldwidehippies.com/store, or make a donation so we can keep up the howl for peace and justice. And you will see the Doc, Wendy Starr, Ed Croft, Michael Poet, Hippie Woman, Glenn Simpson, and yours truly, Winston Smith, here next Monday.